Hi everyone, Professor Kali. Thank you for all you give and all you do. I must say that I am learning a lot from you, and you're just amazing. Yeah, the discussion today, I am going to be discussing about Mariama's So Long Letter, and I will be for me the thing that really appeals to me is the way that in the primary text and the secondary text, by the way, I should let you know that I am using all the four articles that we've been assigned to read for week 10 and week 11, and I've added one more. I'm I'm uploading a written, you know, a short written document, and I have the link in that document. The title of the one other article I added to my literature review is The Public versus the Private in Mariama Bass novels. It's written by Naim Yusuf. You don't have to worry, you're going to get the link in the paper that I'm going to put along with the video. So, reading with some whims, The Agenda of the Africanist Woman, Laura Alexander Ari's Queer Black Feminism, Rizwana Abib's Feminism in an African Context, and Articulating Visibility in the African Muslim Context. Both works are written by Abiblata, Rizwana Abiblata. So now, plus the last one that I said I added, which is The Public versus the Private in Mariam Abbas novel by Naim Yusuf. After reading all these articles, there is something that stands out and that really interests me. And that's why I created a quote from my thinking that it is very interesting to consider feminism in an African Muslim post colonial context and many other contexts. Much more, it is inspiring to think about personal contexts, especially when we give women the audacity to name their own feminism. Not only women, men too. So, there is a question that I'm going to ask you that is important. I'm saying that after reading all the articles, I could see that women characters, critics, you know, writers, I mean the novelist, and of course I says characters in the text, they all have a way of defining their own feminism. Ramtulai has a unique shade of feminism. Aisha, to a friend, you know, takes our own very unique feminist steps. And I began to see that feminism is never a singular idea. And that's where I want to ask you a question. My question is, how true is this to you in your scholarly journey? Do you think feminism is a singular idea that then has tentacles? Or do you think feminism is not a singular concept, but it's a multi-dimensional concept? Like there are so many concepts. Do you think it's a multiple, is a multiple concept or a pluralized concept? And that takes me back to the title of our course, Black Feminisms, which means that even in Black literature, there are so many types of feminisms. That's the first question. Let me ask you another part of the question. How valid would the singular or the pluralized kind of feminism, how valid would that be to you? And I'm going to really appreciate it if you can contextualize your responses. That would be so beautiful. I want to share a personal experience with you that has brought me this far in my thinking. I remember in my theory class in the past semester with Professor Weda Johnson. The first day in class, she said, write something in your paper. We were going to introduce ourselves, and clearly I was the only continental African in the class. So, but that day when she said we should write something about ourselves, I it just came from nowhere. I wrote, I am an African feminist. And it shocked me because I have always hesitated to name myself a feminist. Why is that? I don't buy all the ideas of radical feminism, you know. Um, but reading the articles this week and the other one that I added, I am seeing women showing that feminism can never be a singular idea, that everyone in every context, in every, culture, especially, people create their shade, their definitions. And let me also say, for me, reading the agenda, Quebec feminism, feminism in African context, articulating visibility alongside Mariama along the letter, has proved successful. And there is a thing that rings true with me, and I call it the art of personalizing, defining, and naming one's own feminism. We know that there are shades of feminism popularized by scholars. Some people call themselves African womanists, um, um, Stewanists, radical. We have radical feminism, black queer feminism, queer black, trans feminism, and many more. You can see that people are reconsidering feminism in the light of the socio-cultural context that they are in. And we know that contexts are different, and what people need as feminists may differ culturally. And that is why the Muslim woman and a feminist desires seem different. And there are points where we converge, obviously. So we know that contexts are different and that people's need as feminists may differ culturally. However, what about the personal? What about the personal? The six texts used in this literature review um, bring to light how different women in different words and cultures interpret their feminism. I think with these combos, we are really getting to the heart of black feminisms. As the women we meet, both novelists, critics, and characters are consciously investing in defining their own feminism. They actively do what I term personal feministic definitions. They are erecting their terms and conditions with no apologies. They are creating a very personal definition by unpacking and repacking the tenets of a concept to accept and reject, add and modify to fit their context. So, for example, I see the way that Ramotala's feminist choices differ from that of Aishatu, and perhaps so many other women in the text. These unique choices are similar to Laura Alexander Harris' story about her mom and herself. You remember that she said her mom belongs to the category of feminists who love to fuck their husbands, to fuck their men. And I put an exclamation right there. So, the greatest lesson for me from reading these three texts, from reading all the six texts, is that I am able to see many shades of feminism, which turns to be, which I will name feminism personalized. This inspires me a lot to think about myself and how I define my own feminism. And I see a need now to consciously think in a very personal way about feminism. Back to my story. I remember in my 501 class with Professor Johnson, she asked us to write a few things about ourselves and read what we had written out loud to the class. It was my first class, and I was obviously the only continental African in it. I really can't explain what came over me or cooked in my mind that night. But surely, I got information from my animals. I let something creep out of me that I've been shying away from, and I said, oh, I am an African feminist. Of course, I was running away from something when I used the word African. I knew that I didn't agree with everything called feminism, especially in America. So surely but slowly, I started naming myself. Before then, I've hesitated to name myself a feminist because I do not agree with all the ideologies of feminism. But I know in my deepest heart that I'm a feminist. Maybe I hesitated because I wanted to be a feminist on my own terms. I do not even want to be a feminist on Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's term. I admire her. She's my idol. But I always know that a shade of feminism may not really be my shade of feminism. There will be points of convergence, but there will also be points of divergence. So reading this text has brought me into a space where I think of my own definitions, my terms, and my conditions of feminist involvement. I believe that this is an ideological and a conceptual space that every feminist, both female, male, trans, queer, should reach. If we identify that people carry shades of definitions of their own feminism and queership, then we give them the authority and the audacity to name themselves. For me, this is important because all people have their uniqueness of life and distinctions of experience. So, I know someone will want to ask me that if we all have our definitions, and this is where I want to conclude, and this is where I want you to take the conversation on. I am not saying that my perspective is right. In fact, I want you to tell me your own perspective. And I will be glad if it's a completely different perspective from mine, because that's going to be a way to weigh what intellectual thing is going on in our minds. I know someone will ask me if we all have definitions of our feminisms and our terms and conditions, and we come to a space where we define our own feminism, then things will fall apart. And I'm quoting Chinua Achebe. Um, Things fall apart, and the center will not hold. But I will answer that Laura Alexander, the agenda of the Africana Womanist, Mariama, and all these other scholars that we have studied, to mention a few, just let us know that things have always fallen apart. We can only accept this fate and in a beautiful way create a symphony out of the variations of feminism. So, what is your view about this concept that I have named personalized feminism? What do you think about it? What do you think? Do you think it's going to be beneficial? Do you think it's going to be problematic? If you think it's beneficial, what are the benefits? If you think it's going to be problematic, what are going to be the problems? Thank you very much. You have a good one. Bye.